Welcome to the Oscoda Township regular board meeting, September 24th of 2018. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Cummings?
Here.
Ms. McGuire? Mr. Gajewski?
Here.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Nordine? Mr. Byer? Mr. Weed?
Here. Agenda additions, do we have any?
Yes, we have several agenda additions. Ms. McGuire was trying to add the property tax write-off, and she sent that last Friday afternoon to the board members. So we are trying to add the pay draw number 9 to to Bob Butterson for the payment of bills, which is the last and final payment for the Huron Shores Artisan Hall, associated with the DDA Fund 248. And then also in Fund 248, we are adding $30 to the payment of bills for the recording of the Notice of Federal Interest on the Huron Shores Artisan Hall.
How much is the Butterson bill?
$20,350.
Okay, so under finance, DDA payments, one for the filing fee of $30, the other one for the construction invoice of $20,350. Then under resolutions, we can add delinquent property taxes resolution.
Is there a number on that resolution? There wasn't one on that.
Next number would be 26.
What happened to resolution 21 and 22? Do we have resolutions with those numbers?
Yeah, I believe one was associated with truth and taxation.
Any other additions or changes? Okay, then I need a motion to set the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Mr. Gajewski, support by Mr. Cummings. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the agenda is set. Next is public comments. There's a 4-minute time limit. For this first one, you have to fill out a card and turn it in to the superintendent. When you come to the podium, please introduce yourself. Do we have any cards?
We do. The first one is Richard Miller for court order Bowden Road issues.
Well, I'm a now retired land surveyor that I was hired to identify the issues regarding the road out on the Bowden property. And I have a copy here of the circuit court order dated June 20th, 2013. And I'd like to give a copy of that order to each board member because I know some board members I've never seen before. And I think it's important. The property out there is in worse condition now than it was when I was doing the survey. And I know of 2 board members who are rather adamant about it. Well, 3, Aaron. And I gave Aaron a copy, a colorized copy of the issues identified on a drawing. But I only have 2 additional drawings, unfortunately, and those 2 gentlemen down there, I'm aware that they are very, they are very interested in resolving that issue. So if I can I give each board member a copy of the court order? Because there are 3 pages in the court order, and I did not get enough of the smaller drawings, because the drawings that I prepared was on an 18 by 24 drawing, and I only got 5 reduced copies. You have what I need. But these 2 gentlemen here have expressed a real interest in that property, so I'd like to give them copies of the survey and the drawing. And what I would like to offer is that if anyone wishes to go out and see the property and see the issues that are, because the Bowdens put all their tree stumps, junk, crap, excuse the expression, in the middle of a section line road, a court-ordered section line road, which is 66 feet in total width. They've got the stumps across their north boundary, right down the middle of the road. And I would be glad to go with any board member and show them specifically where the corners are that they have title to, and the property that they didn't own, that they literally destroyed. Do you have any questions?
So you said things look worse than ever, you meant the road.
Yes. Well, the Bowdens put their gate, supposedly identifying their junkyard. It's on the Petrowski's property to the west. Now they have a huge dumpster on Petrowski's property and cleared another probably 50 or 60 feet of trees that belong to Petrowski's on his title property beyond the road right away. I mean, they took trees off their property beyond the road, so.
Have you talked to him about this?
Who, Petrowski? No, I haven't. But I will now, because I just found that out a couple days ago. And I went out there again today, and I was there when the dumpster truck came down the road, and when you go down that road, 1 lane of traffic, all the way from Loud Drive, all the way to the Bowden property. And when I surveyed that for the Bowdens in the 1980s, it was a section line road. Typically, no ditches, they're just a nice cleared road.
Thank you very much.
You bet. So, my phone number, if you want, anybody wants, so give me a call. Thank you very much.
Do we have any other cards?
We do. We have Kathy Wooster-Barth for the PFAS Senate hearing and the M-Part call.
Good evening. Kathy Woosterbarth, 7906 Cedar Lake Road. I just wanted to come to you all tonight and update you on a few things. There, as you may have already heard, there's a Senate hearing next week. Oh no, it's this week already. 2 days. With the subcommittee, let's see, the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, and then the Subcommittee on Federal Spending Oversight and Emergency Management. The title of the hearing is The Federal Role in the Toxic PFAS Chemical Crisis. And I included for you the invitation for Arnie LaRich to be a witness to testify at the hearing, and I wanted to include or to share with you what the purpose of the hearing is. It's to examine the continued federal procurement of and growing impacts of and liabilities related to toxic PFAS. The first panel of the hearing would highlight the role of the federal government in addressing the PFAS crisis across the country, as well as the various opportunities and limitations based on current agency authority. The second panel on which you would participate, meaning Arnie, will focus on the impact of PFAS contamination in communities across the country and the challenges related to exposure, testing, filtration, and remediation. So the insights in this area will be of great value as we explore this. It's an honor, of course, to have a representative from Oscoda being a witness at this hearing, so we're very pleased about this. The NOW group has asked Coletta to help us with getting some community members to the hearing, and they generously donated a charter flight to DC on Wednesday. So we are taking them up on that. We have 7 people from the community, Aaron Weed being one of them, Bob Taser, Scott Moore, the school superintendent, Martha Gottlieb, a NOW member, NOW and RAB member, myself, a NOW member and a RAB member, Chris Coulon, who's a media specialist, and Donna Tingley, who's a NOW member. Other people from Michigan that will be going are Tony Spaniola, he's flying in himself, and there's some people from the Southwest Michigan area that will also be going to the hearing. As you can see, we are trying to get a lot of energy and support for this issue in Washington, D.C. and at the federal level. Of course, the ultimate goal is for money to remediate the contamination and to have the money to remediate. So I did want to mention that we're going to be trying to meet with senators and legislators. We already have a meeting with Dan Kildee, and then the other senator meetings. Actually, it's going to be a crunch day because we're leaving in the morning and coming back at night. So we're not going to have a whole lot of time, but we are going to be attending the hearing, which will last 2 to 3 hours. So. I also wanted to update you on a call that I had with MPART. I'll do this really quickly. We had a call with MPART today, Cody Angel from the Southwest Michigan area, Chris Coulon, and myself. MPART invited 7 members of the staff members from the DEQ and the director of epidemiology for MDHHS and 2 of their communications directors. We showed concern about the foam that's showing up on our lakes right now and how they're addressing that. I was disappointed that they deferred the attention to that to just them wanting to remediate the plumes. So they did not really have any solutions for how this community can address foam on their lakes. So, thank you.
Do we have time for a couple of questions?
Sure.
You listed who's going to go on the Coletta flight, and you did not list Arnie.
Right.
He's got his own arrangements?
He does. He wants to get there early and then stay later.
Does
So
he have to pay his own way?
I believe so. Yes. Yes. I know that the senator's office, Senator Peters, is his contact person for this hearing. He's the ranking member in the committee. So, no, they are not paying for his
Please
flight.
don't talk to us about pay your own way.
Okay. And I've seen the letter from Senator Peters. And Arnie really only has 5 minutes to speak.
Those are his opening comments, and then he will have an opportunity to speak after for questions from the committee members. And there's no limitation on that.
I wonder, maybe we'll bring it up later in the meeting, but, he's going there at his own expense. Should we consider helping him?
Lodging?
I was asked that question last week. And I had concerns over the legalities of that, since he does not have any sort of,
Electric connection.
any sort of, a delegated authority from the township in order to do that.
But what he's doing is benefits the whole community.
Sure.
Yep, and that's great he's doing that. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and I have not had a chance to talk to him about the funds and how he's doing that. Now, we fortunately have an offer from the Michigan League of Conservation Voters to help with our ground transportation, which is pretty costly for 8 people to, drive to and from Dulles Airport. So we are getting some donations for that. But otherwise, the people attending, it's gonna be on our dime to, do everything that we need to do there, so.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have any other cards? All right, now we're on to our consent agenda. Any comments regarding the minutes from the meetings of, 2 meetings of September 7th and the regular meeting of September 10th?
Yeah, I have September 7th. I guess this is a Friday morning meeting. And sometimes, my impression, maybe I'm wrong, but I have a strong impression, that you come pretty close to making up your mind on issues. Case in point would be that commercial Ferris lawnmower that came up, and we want the Kawasaki engine. And I'm not whining about that, it's done, but you might remember something, I was quite puzzled, like, what am I missing? You wanna spend $700 more? And no one would help me out that was at the Friday meeting. It was sort of like, you weren't there, so we're not gonna tell you. So I voted no, and then later I had some time to investigate why the Kawasaki engine, and it made sense. Would have helped if I would have had that information during the meeting. So I'm gonna ask the same kind of thing here. You're talking about things that were discussed on September 10th. And it says, as well, talking about the DDA, as well, proposals to require DDA members to read the applicable state laws, participate in a minimum of 6 hours of formal training, and to specify responsibilities and roles of the members. These are volunteers that are on the DDA board. What did you do with this? Where did this come from? And did you decide that you were gonna make them do all these things? Can you help me with that? It was discussed, there it is. They have to read the applicable state laws. They must participate in a minimum of 6 hours of formal training, and to specify responsibilities and roles. Was that just talked about, or was that acted on? And if it was acted on, it had to be acted on Friday. That's a no-no. Lots of silence here.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to see if you're done.
I'm done.
Okay. Well, we don't act on anything in a work session.
I hope so. So,
But there is discussion that happens because it is a work session.
yes.
So questions came up regarding the DDA, and I let them know that I was making recommendations of those things.
Those are, it didn't come up the following meeting, so what, it died, those recommendations? It was not in the agenda, the meeting after September 7th.
No, it was during discussions about their bylaws.
So, bottom line, are DDA members gonna have to do these things?
They have to decide that. I've provided recommendations, and then they'll decide from that point.
That's up to them.
Well, and up to this board when they bring their proposal to bylaws out.
This seemed like an awful lot for volunteers.
As far as the lawnmower, Did you want to touch on that one?
Well, I worked on them things for many years, and I know which is the best engine on the market, and it's give us the best performance and for long term. And that's why I brought that up. And, because why are we spending that kind of money for something that won't last unless we get it that'll last?
I know that now. I mean, it showed up at the meeting and the recommendation was we go with the Kawasaki for 700 extra. And so the next day, which was Tuesday, after we voted 6-1 to go with Kawasaki, I did some inquiries, checked with Bill Hamlin, and he came up with some answers, similar to what you're saying, and it made sense. You know, we have a lot of Kawasaki parts out there. They seem to last longer, and so forth. And that's fine. I sure would have liked to have known that the night before. That's all. Okay.
Anything else for that? That Friday morning meeting is a public meeting. Anyone is welcome to attend, so they can verify exactly what's going on during those. Any other questions regarding these minutes? Any comments regarding the payment of bills for the township at $79,302.29? Anything regarding DDA payment for the filing fee of $30 and the construction invoice of $20,350?
Is that the amount? I was thinking that our earlier discussions, the amount was more around 17,000. Was there some additional work that was done, or am I just misremembering those numbers?
The final pay draw is $20,350, and
I thought when we were looking at the budget items for the DDA that we were anticipating a final payment of around 17,000.
hold on, bear with me.
I think that was when they formed the committee that a few of the DDA members and myself were on. And according to the spreadsheet from the USDA, that was the remaining figure, I think, Dave, if that's correct. But then
Correct.
we were waiting for the final numbers from Jackie from USDA to get to us, and then it ended up being 20,000 something. But there was still some contingency money that was left, I believe, to cover that.
I'm trying to open up the final pay draw here. Yes, what we owe Butterson is the $20,350. What I'm trying to bring up is the offset of what we receive from the USDA. $20,350, and
Does this help? Is there anything I need?
reimbursement. So we received I'm trying to see what we got from the USDA. It would have been like 23% of that. To offset that final payment. So that exhausts. The final amount from the DD or from the USDA exhausts the 65,000. So the last offset, the federal share of the unliquidated obligations was 5,584.87, and that's what we received from the USDA that came in.
Okay, so
So there is a federal offset. We still have to pay the 20,350.
so the amount that we were
but
looking at paying was around 15,000. Okay,
about
that's,
14.5.
that-
We have to pay the 20,350, but we've already received, after they approve the pay draw, the federal funds associated with that final pay draw, or the 23% of that.
right, okay, that makes sense, because we were trying to justify figure out the amount of money for the rest of the year for the DDA, and I remember there being an amount in there, I was thinking it was 17, but maybe it was 15, I did not remember it being 20, so. But if there's an offset to that, then that would be the amount that we were figuring that the township would have to come up with, so that makes sense, thank you.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that we can approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Gieske. Roll call?
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Mr. Cummings,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mr. Gieske,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Weed.
Yes, motion is passed. Next, subcommittee reports and project updates. First I have here is Develop by Osco.
Okay, that would be me. So some year and a half ago, I don't remember the exact date, this board provided me the vote to represent the township at the Develop by Osco meetings. And I asked to have this placed on the agenda tonight so that we could discuss that what I'd like to see the board vote on, or at least understand, that I would like to continue to represent the township at Develop by Osco. However, given the lack of forward progress on the DI group being able to actually help the community and spending quite a bit of time on its own organization, that I'd like the board to know that I don't want to be able to attend these meetings until the DI group decides to start focusing on its purpose and its product. It simply hasn't been working on that for some time now. So that's the reason for this request.
Do they know your thoughts? Does this board and the members and the officials that run it, do they know what you just said?
Not every one of them. One of them does. This wasn't, I haven't made the last couple meetings. I've been looking at their minutes and their agendas. They're working on bylaws, which don't affect me because I'm not on that board. I'm not a board member of the DI. I am a participant, like so many other people who are in the audience. I don't have a vote, per se. So as they work out websites and other kinds of things, it's kind of become non-productive. And if I've got to drive to Hale and then sit through an hour and a half and 2-hour meeting, it takes up my entire morning. So what I want to do, though I agree and I believe in its purpose, I believe that there is a development of economic conditions here to be improved. I just want to put a hold on this requirement that I attend those meetings.
Well, Tim, my concern is that this reflects, whatever your feelings are, if you really haven't totally shared them with that group, it kind of makes us look bad, like we don't give a D, as far as if you have an empty chair each time and they don't know why. You see what I'm saying?
No, it would be something I would communicate to them after we have made a decision. They would know why I wouldn't.
Okay. Okay.
But this is a matter of us discussing this tonight.
For a long time, a parallel, this Iosco Townships Association, they have dinners and meetings like 4 times a year, usually in the evening, and for a long time, nobody from Oscoda ever participated, and there was a lot of bad feeling about that. They, you know, doesn't Oscoda care what's going on? They're the big guys, the fancy people, the most population, and they don't ever want to hobnob with the rest of us. And I remember the first time we went, we were thanked profusely for, thank you for coming, you know, and we were supposed to be there all along. So they're touchy. And I would urge you to share your feelings, not just not appear.
Absolutely. I discussed this with the board on Friday and bring it up here now in summary.
So is your plan to stay involved by continuing to check the minutes and
Primarily the agenda.
the
right?
agenda? And then if in the future something comes up where they're actually doing something of some value, then you would start attending the meeting? Is that the plan?
That is the idea. I want to look at, see what the agenda is going to be about, and I want to then have that toe in the door to be able to go back to the meeting and continue to represent Oscoda. In the meantime, it does offer an opportunity for me to put time that I would be putting to DI toward other projects that we also need to have done, which we've discussed in our strategic planning meetings. Some of the technology projects which we've talked about, which we're all familiar with. So it would give me a little bit of a bandwidth to go and direct my time to that. But quite honestly, given that it's a 1-month meeting, it's not a make or break situation. It's just a matter of just looking at it and bringing it to everyone's attention.
No, I agree, even though it's 1 month, if you got a 2-hour meeting there, you're looking at 3 to 4 hours of your time taken up.
Yeah.
It's pretty significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in agreement, keep an eye peeled on them, but let's focus on some things for Oscoda.
Thank you.
What's the consensus?
That's fine.
Yeah, I think that's, I think if the meetings are not productive, and you just go and sit in the audience and watch the board conduct business that doesn't really have anything to do with Oscoda or any other township in the county, they're just going over their own situations, then that's a lot of time for you to spend if it's not productive. If in the future that changes and it becomes more productive, then, you know, I'd like to have you, or if you're not available, someone else,
Right.
go back to those meetings. But yeah, attending a board and it's not productive, there's other things you could be doing with your time, obviously.
And I would just,
You already said it.
I already said it, yeah. I mean, in my tenure on this board, I find that there is a chip on the shoulders of the other 10 townships, at least, about the size of a grand piano. And anything we do that is the slightest weird, they take offense. And I think we need to get along with the rest of the county. So as long as you tell them what's going on and why you're doing this, I'm good.
Well, fair enough. And since you were at the Friday meeting, one of the other options here was that someone else could take the position. It's fine too. I just want to make sure that the board is infoed on what's going on.
Okay, that's fine. And if I had a normal situation, which most of you know I don't, I would jump at that and say, hey, I'd go, but, you know, so talk is cheap. I'm blabbing away and I can't do that. I cannot, so.
Yeah.
All right, and a RAB update.
Right, so there is talk of the next RAB meeting being the last Wednesday in November or the first Wednesday in December. They're taking a survey right now, and they'll be, I'm sure, letting us know what date most people are able to make. And I wanted to thank very much that it was on my list of items to bring up here, but Ms. Withterbarth, who came and talked about the role that Arnie is playing at the Senate Subcommittee. I think it's great. I'm very happy that he's able to represent the community, and I'm very happy that he reached out and let everyone know that he had this opportunity. If there is anything that I feel anyone, I speak on behalf of the RAB in the community, please, anybody out there who has anything that they want to have mentioned or brought to the attention of the subcommittee, please make sure that you've communicated that to Arnie. I know that his email and other vehicles of communication are well known, but if you have any difficulty in reaching him, you can always reach him through me. I'd be happy to take anything you send to me, and I'll forward it to him. Given that he'll be leaving imminently, I guess, soon, I would let him know. I could even call him and let him know that there's an email on the way. But I want to make sure that we take full advantage and get full benefit from this trip. Let's see, then that'll be it.
So now the zoning and planning and form-based planning broadband update.
All right, here we go again. I know, here it is. It's all me. I feel like I'm Mr. Projects here. Well, I'm not representing all of those things individually. I asked for that list of items because of a couple comments that I wanted to make about them in a somewhat removed way. I'm obviously not responsible for zoning and planning. That would be Mr. Tejer. But in this case, what I wanted to do is I wanted to thank the zoning board and and Lorna, our zoning officer, for arranging the form-based planning a couple weeks ago. I had not really heard anything about form-based planning before. I had no idea what it was. I was asked if I wanted to attend. I was curious. I happened to have a little bit of time, a rare thing that I get to experience in my schedule, and during the day, and I was able to go in and listen for a few hours, and I found it amazingly beneficial. As with any training, it gives you an opportunity to learn about something new, which I always enjoy doing. This particular training I thought was so important because I think it is well, at least I think and I hope that it is the key to some of our woes with regarding our planning and ordinances. We have the ability to fix a number of things which I think many communities throughout the country suffer from because they've existed for decades prior, and this is a great way to update yourselves. And it's not upsetting to everybody that lives there. It doesn't cause you to have to rewrite the volumes of documents that exist for zoning and planning. So anyway, I wanted to just say that I was very, very excited to be part of it. I love the topic, and I wanted to say that I was in support of it, and to thank them for letting me attend that particular meeting. And the next point, because it was also about broadband, one of the things that came to mind while I was in the training also paralleled what I've been doing with the township recently. So, for some time now, I've been a proponent of broadband. Before I ran for the last election, and it was one of the points that I was keen on seeing improved here in Oscoda and in Iosco County. But there's a concept from a book that came out many years ago, by now in 1991, many by certain viewpoints. But in 1991, there was a book that came out that coined a term called penturbia. Pent or penta meaning five, and turbia, being a word of where people could live. And so this penturbia was about the fifth migration of the civilization of people here in North America. And it talked about something that hadn't yet happened, which was that people would, one day in the future, with the use of the internet and possibly other social developments, no longer be tied to where they live or to where they work and have it define where they live. And this concept I found to be really interesting, especially in the context of farm-based planning, because it changes the way we can start to think about the community and how we can think about our future and how we want to build it. I thought that was just something important I wanted to share. Sorry for the soapbox, but I thought that was an important thing. And because broadband is important as well, and we're trying to increase it here with Old Orchard and Wi-Fi, and we're looking at other opportunities with broadband and getting improving our technology in the township as well as Township Hall. I thought it fit right in, and I just wanted to say thank you, because I wouldn't have had that cognition there had I not had the opportunity to do that planning training. Thank you.
All right. Next is on the water main extension for the portion that runs from along Vanneton Dam Road, Forest Drive, and Rose Lane. We had our walkthrough yesterday with the contractor and the engineer. We identified some areas that need to be fixed. We'll do another walkthrough the end of this week to verify that those items have been taken care of. Next one is bike path engineering design for the remainder of the route. At the bike path meeting last week, Spicer was there. They kind of did a photographic tour, slideshow to show the observances they've had along those portions of the route. Got feedback from the bike path board, and they're going to re-engage into a more specific plan. I got one here for the form-based zoning training. Mr. Palmer, do you have something for that? For the training that was last week?
Oh, just that it was well attended and a very informative, as Mr. Cummings pointed out, I think there was a lot of things that all of us that attended that were able to gain information on what exactly form-based code is. I think there was a misconception by a lot of people of what form-based code actually entails. And it's something that you can implement in just a small area to get started. And I think it's something in part of our downtown area we could look at. And then it can be expanded over time to larger areas or whatever the township feels is necessary. But it was a very informative class, and I think everyone that attended learned a great deal about form-based code. I know I did. I was not completely informed. I had looked into it a little bit, but there were a lot of things that I weren't clear on until we had that class. So it was very, very valuable, I think.
All right, next one I have is for the lead and copper law. There's training that the Michigan Township Association is going to put on October 2nd. I plan to attend that. I didn't know if any other board members plan to be at that training. And then the last one I have is the MAPS training event that's going to be held on the 25th of October. Yeah, board members would like to attend. They've given us 4 seats for free for using the Warrior Pavilion. That's their payment back to us. But we can have more attend.
Yeah, this is a class that MAPS had asked to use our facility to have this training session. Because of the very first training session that the Planning Commission put on, they were so impressed with the turnout and the facility that they would like to use that facility again. So in October, that's going to be this training session. And as you mentioned, they've agreed to give us 4 free tickets, so to speak, for members to attend. We can have more than that if people want to attend, but there is a cost involved with this training. But we can have 4 people attend free of charge.
All right, any other project updates? All right, then on to reports. The first one is proposals for renovation of bathrooms at Township Hall.
Right. The bathrooms at Township Hall are not fully functional and in need of renovation. So your packet contains proposals from Design Industrial and Goyette Plumbing to renovate the bathrooms. And you will see the DPW, when you see the excluded items from Design Industrial, that means DPW will be completing those items. One of the proposals is over the $2,000 limit and would need to be approved by the Township Board. What I've detailed in the report here are the funds, the line items from the budget from which it would be taken.
Comments?
This doesn't have anything to do with the problems that was mentioned at an earlier meeting about the sewer lines connecting the building.
No,
That's gonna be a separate issue.
yeah, no, this is just to get, we don't have shut-off valves in there. One of the sinks is also not, operational, and, so we need some updates, some renovations in there. They're lacking.
Do the updates include better lighting?
The updates don't have lighting. This is fixtures, and the plumbing associated with it. Does not have lighting.
Do you agree with me that the lighting is a little pitiful in there?
I think we could have the DPW do the lighting. They might be able to do something about that, but this is for the actual fixtures and getting the shut-off
I
valves.
got that. I understand. But as long as you're doing something, you might as well do it all.
You have some specific recommendations?
Fix the lighting. That's not very specific, but it's, it's really dark and dreary in there, so.
I can attest.
Any other comments?
So, Bill Hamlin's recommending the design industrial?
He is.
Any comments or a motion?
I move we go ahead with design industrial bid.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes, motion's passed. Next, proposal to purchase 12 meter pits.
All right. So the township is experiencing difficulty maintaining an appropriate supply of meter pits due to a shortage from suppliers. Right now, we're at about 28 days out to get a meter pit. Most of the components are on back order, and the township needs to keep more meter pits available for the water customers. Right now is our practice is we have 2 to 4 on hand, and we need to increase that. Your packet contains a quote from Aetna Supply to purchase all components of 12 meter pits for $10,830, and it details specifically the line items to be used for the budget.
Comments?
At the, oh,
Dave,
good.
Dave, are there any grant monies that touch this at all?
Not for this is basic township infrastructure associated with this. I can check with
Catherine?
with F&V,
Yeah.
but getting the meter pits ordered is they're low on being able to get those out.
I had a chance to talk to Catherine recently, and I don't mean to put words in her mouth, but she said that there are grants out there that may touch this. It's worth a question, or a little research,
Are you talking about for this purchase or for future purchases?
this purchase.
We're a little short on time. If we don't get meter pits purchased soon, then we're gonna
Okay.
be short, and that's gonna cause problems with connection.
Okay, but you still can ask her for future purchases?
I can, and
She didn't say it's a slam dunk, but she's brought it up herself. I didn't have to ask her about grant money coverage. She brought that up.
well, and yeah, I can give her I can call Kat.
Did you wanna look into grants? Maybe write one?
No, I know you want to shut me up here, but.
No, I don't wanna
no.
shut you up, I'm just asking.
No, it's the.
Because I've written 3 grants and I've enjoyed doing them.
Well, good,
So.
good. No, I don't, she talked to me like there was an existing program. Why reinvent the wheel? And it might cover this, and it's worth a question.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Marty?
Any other comments?
Yeah. And, stuff being on short supply, I'd like to see some accountability once they hit our warehouse, where they're used and what address, to make sure, because if everybody's after these, and, not saying F&B would do it, but they're a big company, so I like to have some accountability on what we buy.
And based on your question, I did follow up with Kath on the inventory. She is gonna be using a retired, F&V, operator to be able to put together a spreadsheet that's gonna detail the inventory. She's also, assured me the other communities that F&V operations, services, that's the water plant and then the mains. So anything off of the mains, the other communities that they're in, their DPWs of those townships are servicing those. So it's not like F&V is installing meter pits in those other communities. But these would, you know,
But
be
this is
used
just
for.
the beginning for 12. It's
Correct.
just the beginning. I mean, we're gonna run into probably close to $1 million of water pits, or meter pits, time it's all over with,
And so,
township wide. Well, might as well start accountability now, make sure what we're doing.
and so you'd like to see it documented, the address that they're used at.
Yeah.
A a serial number association to
Something, yeah.
where it, to where it was installed would be
Yeah.
good. Then we'd know what was ordered and we could see where it was then used. It would seem to me that wouldn't be a big ask for FOV because they've got to pull one off the shelf. I mean, they could update the spreadsheet and share it with us
Yeah.
periodically or something like that, but I mean, to the concern that came up on the Friday work session, we just want to make sure that nothing gets swiped, not by FOV, but in general, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
if it's a rare commodity and people are vying for them,
And you'll see the components that are associated that we're buying 24 and 12 each of. When these meter pits fail, it's not always the whole meter pit.
Right.
And so we're disassembling,
Right.
meter pits constantly to be able to be replacing those components.
okay.
But yes, I can ask for that.
Sure. It's kind of an asset viewpoint. I'm almost thinking like an asset tag being associated with these things so we know where they are. But there's probably a serial number on them.
And should we have some sort of purchasing procedure that we put in place so that, since these are, this is backlogged and there's a wait time on these, and we're gonna be using quite a few of them in the future, not too distant future, should there be something in place where you could put it within your buying preview to make those purchases so that we would keep a certain number of these in stock? Not wait till it gets down to where they're nearly out and then we have to approve a large purchase?
That's what's normally done. Normally, we maintain 4 on hand, but they were easy to get. It's just all of a sudden, they became very short on supply. So that's why we thought, well, we better bulk up a bit now in case that lasts for a little while.
Is there some plan that they're gonna be more accessible in the future, or is this just a thing right now that they're a problem?
I don't know, sounds like a good time to start up a meter pit manufacturing business.
Yeah. Sounds like an opportunity.
We are doing this because they're in short supply and there's a 4 to 6 week lead time to get them. And is also the fact that we're getting more people as we extend the water lines. We're getting more customers, and that is another reason why.
This isn't factored into the water main extension. This is just for the normal usage rate that we have with
Just
meter
normal
pits.
situation, okay?
And I just wanted to tag on to make it official from the Friday to bring it forward to the meeting so that everybody hears it. But the standard operating procedure viewpoint, Bill touched on it for just a moment when he said, you know, we should have a procedure for buying them. There should probably be, it should probably be a robust procedure because Ms. McGuire commented that there was a point at which customers were going over to the Treasury office to pay for the meter to be installed, but didn't have an invoice yet. So it's probably an opportunity to clean up the whole process, not just the ordering, but how we actually interface with the customer. And I only mention that because we talked about in a work session, the strategic work session, that being able to put a lot of what we do at Township Hall in standard operating procedure form, and it seemed that the utility billing clerk's job is probably the closest one to that. She's the only one that has a manual that actually has some notes that have been collected over the years, though it may not be complete. So it's just, this would be one to note and have her work on.
Any other comments? Or a motion?
All right, I move that we accept, let's see, this, there's only one, it's only Aetna, right? So that we purchased the 12 meter pits from Aetna with 24 couplings for the cost of $10,830.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Byer. Roll call?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, motion's passed. Next, Real Estate One proposal for township-owned properties.
All right. So based on consultation with the township's real estate contractor, the reductions to the listing prices for township-owned properties are being advised. And so your packet contains the proposed listing price reductions on township-owned properties with supporting documentation from Real Estate One.
Would one of you like to come up to the podium? All right, so in our Friday work session, we did discuss some of the pricing stuff and some specific properties. One in particular was the Awney Medical Center, and showing that in relative properties, we should probably bring that price down to, I believe it was 2.75
Yes.
million.
Yes.
And then I think there was another property that we discussed, I can't remember it offhand.
Yeah, it's the
So 40
one,
acres.
pardon?
We did, there was a survey for the 40 acres, was there a price
You
associated?
need the,
No, that was a survey.
yeah, we need the 40-acre survey price reduction on that.
Right.
And the price on the F-41 property.
Yeah, there was a price reduction on that. From 20,000 price reduction from 70,000 to 50,000.
Yep.
And also a price reduction on the F-41 property. There was a lot of discussion on that.
Mhm.
From 50,000 to 30,000 on that. Awney from 3.5 million to 2.75. The Awney, that price at the 3.5 million is at $35 a square foot. That's very competitive to any of the larger scale buildings that are out there. With the price reduction, that should put it down to about 27 a square foot. So,
Okay. So we have the full list available for the pricing with these 3 changes were thought about. Is there any comments?
Just a comment that I made Friday that I think are, for me anyway, the first priority is to get these properties sold and get them on the tax rolls.
Yep.
Trying to hold out for top dollar on every single one of these properties seems to me a little futile. In the long, that's kind of short-sighted to look at it that way, so I would be in favor of, we hired a firm to deal with these properties. Their recommendation is to lower the prices. To me, I think that makes sense. Let's see if we can't move some of these properties, get them on the tax rolls, and move on.
well, when we started with the contract with the township, we told you guys that we were going to be periodically coming to you and suggesting reductions on some of the properties.
Yep.
And there may be more in the future. However, we are planning to present the properties to some developers. We have already done so. We've had response already from some developers. And, if things don't move quickly, or as quickly as we think they should, or we need them to, then we'll be back with another reduction. So, possible reduction.
Just a quick question for you or Aaron or Dave. If we lower the price for Awney Medical Center and somebody grabs it, what do we do with the tenants that are out there? Do they have an agreement for 4 years or 10 years or whatever?
Well, that would be sold with the lease contingent on it, that leases would be honored that are existing.
Okay. Would that be a deal killer for somebody that wants to buy that building and start doing something with it in 6 months?
I see other buildings that are being sold that are being leased out to other tenants, so I don't see why it should.
Okay. So there's a workable formula. Okay.
I think there was some question also that we had discussed at some length some time ago about possibility of tearing down portion of that building. And in our Friday discussions, we had said that that wasn't something we were planning to do. I believe that was something we had looked into because there are some problems with the build. That part of the building needs a roof, some roof repair, and that kind of thing. And parts of that building haven't been used in years and years. It's just been vacant. Well, it's a haunted house now.
Yeah,
in
exactly
October.
right.
But
Not literally, it's just just for Halloween.
yeah,
1 month a
only
year.
for a short time. But that is not, and I think there was some misinformation there about that we were planning on tearing down part of that building, and that is not,
Okay.
that is not the plan.
And that's also what kind of prompted the price reduction, was that some of the building was in more disrepair than we thought it was. We weren't aware that there was, in need of a roof repair. And upon finally inspecting the building, it was kind of hard to get in and get everything scheduled so we could go through and look at the building. And upon inspecting the building, that also prompted, a price reduction also, so.
And if what they're saying is correct, that the other properties that we're competing with are all at the same $35 a square foot, then to me it makes sense for us to lower that sum to make ours stand out a little more, to have the developer say, well, look, we can go here to Oscoda and get a better deal on a relatively same-sized building and do what we want to do, so.
Competitive. Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the proposed reduction in prices for our properties by Real Estate One.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, motion is passed. Next, street lighting proposal for F41.
All right, so, Consumers Energy provided a proposal to extend street lighting on F41 to the entrance of Ken Ratliff Park. And based on our discussion Friday, I got clarification from Mr. Casey Lee from Consumers. And what he says, this is the one-pager email that I passed out right before the meeting. So the first portion requested was for the 8 lights, and then the remaining portion was for 32 lights, or $3,200. The entire $4,000 would need to be paid up front, along with signed contracts and authorization for change prior to construction, and would start at Cedar Lake Road and stop at Ken Ratliff Park. So that corresponds with the diagrams that he provided in there. He also proactively said the next question you'll be asked is how long before we will have the lights installed. He said we're still obtaining easements from customers' property owners, so depending on how long it takes to get them back, it would take us approximately 30 days to get all of the lights installed, barring no large storms come through.
Comments?
Casey's a former high school student of mine, so if I ask him if he would extend this lighting into the bathrooms in the Township Hall, we'll go over that.
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
So that was a question Friday. The total cost for extending the lighting from Cedar Lake Road down F41 to Ratliff Park is $4,000.
Correct.
Did he indicate what kind of easements he needs? I thought their poles were on the right of way.
I guess he's trying to work with some specific. He doesn't have it indicated on the map which ones he has and which one he's obtaining. I don't have that.
Were we able to find out about the appropriateness of using 236?
Yeah, not right now. No, not yet.
Okay. Thank you.
That is still up for debate.
Fund 236
Yes,
for
correct.
clarification,
Yes.
which is our property O&M account.
Well, I would just say that I think it would be a big improvement to F41 to have this updated lighting all the way up to Ratliff Park.
And I like it because it'll actually provide lighting in advance of the completion of the construction for that apartment complex that we voted on a year ago. It's supposed to be just off of Georgia over there on the old base, so we know that there'll be additional traffic from that.
Right.
So this will be something where we can have something done ahead of time.
Not to mention all the traffic that uses it for bikes and walking to work already.
That's right.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we pay the $4,000 to Consumers Energy to extend the lighting to Ratliff Park.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call?
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, motion's passed. Next is the DDA letter of resignation. This letter of resignation's already been through the DDA board, but it's for IMSA Oki. Is there any comments?
I'll make a motion we accept with regrets.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call?
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes, motion's passed.
Could I suggest that we send her a letter of thank you for her years of service?
All right, now the DDA authorized 2 mil levy.
Right. So the DDA board has authorized the 2 mills operating levy allowed by state law. Your packet contains Form L 4029, signed by the DDA chairman and secretary to be submitted to the Iosco County Board of Commissioners. Your packet also contains draft minutes from the September 18th DDA board meeting, as well as a detail of the projected $27,895.80 associated with the authorized 2 mil increase. Township Board also needs to approve the 2 mills operating levy for it to become effective.
Any comments?
Was this unanimously passed by the DDA?
No. It was a 4-to-1 vote.
Did the one person explain why they were voting no on this? Because it,
Yes. Explain something in regards to that because of the residences that live within the district.
or they're gonna hit too?
That every property within the
Every
district.
property, whether it's commercial or not?
Correct.
Okay.
And based on some of the calculations for some of the business properties, the increase would be anywhere from $100 to $500, roughly, a year.
Mhm.
So I imagine the residential properties would probably be a little less than that, depending on their size.
And one of the other comments that was made was that in the future, the DDA be redistricted to take out those residential properties from the DDA district. So that might,
Do that?
Yeah, if they decide to change their boundaries.
Take out all the residences?
So like, for instance, I brought up regarding the DDA district extending to the first line of properties just east of Lake Street. And if Lake Street isn't going to be developed, because I know that's been on the books for a long time to turn that into a one-way to kind of separate US 23 traffic. You know, if there's gonna be another 30, 50 years for anything like that to happen, if it's ever gonna happen, then why maintain those within the district? So if they were to pull that border in, to be more within their development area, or their development realm.
Wouldn't that be defeating the purpose, though? They would be losing money if they did that.
Probably would, but their district would also become a little smaller,
Right.
wouldn't be as large to work with.
Do the people in the downtown district, do they get notified of this? Any type of, or they just get their tax bill and then that's on it?
As far as I know, that's just their tax bill, since this isn't any kind of a voted-in millage.
So the DDA would recognize or realize, approximately $28,000 additional to what they now have
You're correct, per year.
per year. Yep. Well, that sounds good, but is this board gonna load them up with financial responsibilities that will eat this all up and it'll be a wash? I mean, cleaning sidewalks in the winter and fixing lamps on the streets there, and if one of the lights blows out or something like that. I can see where the $28,000 would end up meaning nothing if we load them up with all kinds of new responsibility that they have not now experienced. So I don't know if that's answerable now, but I'm concerned about that. Because it'll be a wash, they won't really get an addition of money, and a bunch of people will have to pay higher taxes to a degree, and for what? So I'm gonna vote yes on this, but I just hope that doesn't happen, so.
Any other comments?
well, I would just like to point out that the numbers here a little bit. In 2017, their taxable amount was $55,959. projected amount for 2018 is $63,965, plus a $27,895.80 brings their total budget amount that they would have at $91,861. And given the fact that the DDA has a large expense that needs to be paid off relatively soon, this will help them to do that and to also take on some projects. They won't be big projects, but my explanation from a couple of DDA board members has been that their procedure in the past has been that they sort of save up their money for a number of years, and then they do a big project, which they have just done, and then they pay that off, and then they save up their money again for a few more years, and then take on another project. And they are already looking at another possible project some years down the road. But in my opinion, I believe this will help them to pay off this debt that they have a little sooner. And I'm afraid that some of the tenets of the way this was done was not exactly proper. And I'm afraid that after the first of the year, when the Michigan Treasury Department now is in charge of looking over the books of DDAs, they may have some questions about this. Not to say that it'll be a problem, but
What do you mean, the tenants of what? You said the tenants of this? What do you mean by that, this?
Basis.
What are you referring to when you say the tenants of this?
of the purchase of the property.
Okay.
Purchase of the property that was made. I'm not convinced that all parts of that were done absolutely correct. But that's here and there. It's done now, so that bill has to be paid off. And I think this will allow them to be able to pay that off a little quicker and still be able to do some problems. And to Mr. Byers' question, we have a resolution that's coming up that deals with the various things that the DDA will be doing. One of those things is an agreement with the township for any kind of services that would be rendered. An agreement would be worked out. I don't see, it's just my personal opinion, I think the DDA needs to pay a certain amount because they will be a body corporate, so there has to be some consideration involved. I don't think it has to be a huge amount of money. I think we can work out an agreement with them so that we're not busting their budget in terms of what we ask them to pay in terms of some of the services that the township would provide, but that some nominal amount would be paid by the DDA. And
What type of services are you thinking?
well, as you mentioned, snow removal, any of those kinds of things. I think that's something that we could negotiate with them and have where they would contribute some amount. It wouldn't have to be the total amount. The township could share in some of those, but that would add to the idea that they are a body corporate because they are paying for services. It wouldn't have to be the full ticket. I'm not trying to take their money away from them that they're getting on its taxes, because I think the DDA can use that money for some good things down the road. First and foremost here for the very near future is to get this building paid off in a relatively short period of time, and then have some money to do some other projects. So I believe we could work out an agreement with them to where they would pay something, but it wouldn't be all of their extra money that they're taking in. I don't think that's, at least in my opinion, that's not the goal of this board, is to try and do that. So that's just my 2 cents on that part of it.
Can I add a comment here, please? Just this past weekend, we had the Paul Bunyan Festival. I hope it was successful. I don't know the numbers. I don't know if anybody does at this early date, but to set that up, 4 or 5, I'm not sure, DPW workers helped put up the snow fence around it. 60 to 70, in my information, rolls of snow fence that belong to the township were used. In the back of they have to drill into the ground. There's some kind of concrete thing. You just can't pound poles into the ground. It's much more complicated. The rest of it, the two sides, north and south and front by 23, are much easier. A golf cart or Easy Go was, given to them to use to pick up garbage the 2 or 3 days of the festival. Bleachers were brought in that belonged to the township. Picnic tables were brought in that belonged to the township. Garbage receptacles were placed around that belonged to the township. And the festival was organized and run by the Chamber of Commerce, which is not a part of the township at all. Guess how much they had to pay for all this cooperation? Zero, nothing. And that's fine. I have no problem with that. It's for the good of the community, but that's a lot of help and a lot of material. But we're gonna zing the DDA, which you want to be a corporate association of the township, and start charging them for stuff where you don't charge other people. I'm trying to figure that out, so.
Well, I explained that to you when you brought that up the first time, that is something that will have to be addressed, because we are not supposed to donate services. And now that this is I'll start off with saying that was kind of low on my priority list, because we have a lot of other big issues to take care of. But now that you've brought this up for the third time, that has now moved higher up my priority list, and I appreciate the list here of things that you gave me for that. But, it has to be addressed, and it will be, to make sure that we are in compliance with the law.
So what you're saying is that we're gonna start charging Chamber of Commerce and organizations like that for.
Correct, but we're also not supposed to, by law, do work for hire. So we have to find the balance here as to what work we can do and charge for, as opposed to what work they can just provide themselves, which would hopefully be an economic benefit to them.
Well, I look forward to the reaction that you're gonna get on that.
Well, I stand by the law. I'm not gonna fudge the law, just for the fun of it. Any other comments regarding the 2 mil levy?
When will it take effect? Will that be January 1st?
On the
December 1st. It'll be on the it's actually going to be on the December tax roll, which covers the entire year for 2018.
Got that. Okay, thank you.
And they'll get their collection in March for that,
March, okay. Got
along
it.
with their other collection.
Okay.
Any further comments or a motion?
I move that we go ahead with authorizing the 2 mil operating levy for the DDA.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call.
Ms. McGuire?
I'm gonna vote no, and the reason why is because there was a lot of other millages that were already passed, and just doing the estimates for the winter tax bills, my bill went up $80 for just those millages. So adding another 2 mills to the people in the DDA district that are residential, I'm not in favor of.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes, motion's passed. Next, resolution and ordinances. First is a resolution for a food truck update.
Right. So your packet contains a memo from the zoning administrator associated with the planning commission at the September 4th meeting, voted unanimously to add the Oscoda Sports Park and Veterans Memorial parking lot to to locations allowing food trucks. And so you'll also see in there the current plus the highlighted 2 bullets associated with the mobile food vending units.
Comments?
I'm happy to see this moving forward. I know that it's going to be a big benefit to all of the people that are employed out on the former Air Force Base. And around the area, for that matter, anywhere.
Just as an update, the airport authority still has not approved the food truck process yet. So hopefully that will happen next month.
Okay.
Any other comments or a motion?
I'll move to approve Resolution 2018-24 to add food truck vending to the Veterans Memorial Parking Lot and the Oscoda Township Sports Complex.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Gieske. Roll call?
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes, motion's passed. Next resolution for the Iron Bell Bike Path. This is in relation to what we talked to at the last meeting with providing an extra $100,000 for Phase 3 that runs from the school to Old Orchard Park. Any comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2018-25.
Support.
Motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call?
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes, motion's passed. Next resolution for the Oscoda Township Downtown Development Authority.
All right, so this is based on the previous discussion about the resolution, and based on that discussion, we came back with the 10 components within the resolution 2018-23 for the board to consider.
Any comments?
Yeah, there seems to be a typo here at the bottom of page 1 that I wanted to point out. The very last line, it says subcomponents of and therefore answerable to, and it should say, well, I should say, and therefore answerable, comma, to, and then it's a letter S instead. So it just looks like a typo got entered in. I have a comment that I noticed in comparing the list of 9 items that we looked at 2 weeks ago, and then the list being presented to us tonight. There are changes in wording on 5 of the 9 items compared to 2 weeks ago. Some important, some minor, but I thought we were gonna just sit on this for a couple weeks and kind of ruminate on what you thought about it, and then tonight I look and there's changes in that regard, and probably this is gonna go nowhere, but I'm gonna, we have 1 board member missing. This is pretty important stuff. And I know it's been postponed once, but it isn't really the same thing we looked at 2 weeks ago and postponed. I'm gonna make a motion that we postpone this until we have a full board. We have 7 people here to look at this. And I'm probably gonna be lucky if I even get a second on that, so,
I'll second it just so you can get your vote.
okay.
I am not in favor of postponing it. We've been discussing things with the DDA for 2 years, and it's time for something to happen. Cutting things down to the wire here, the DDA needs to realign and get focused onto downtown development. They need to create an economic development for the downtown with the additional 2 mills, with the project of the Artisan Hall being completed. with them agreeing to revamp their bylaws and redo their TIF plan, create a new plan for the future. And then along with additional training that I'm recommending along the way here, I think there's going to be some great strides made. Postponing this is only going to delay getting those strides started.
Some of your suggestions, like I've already alluded to, 6 hours of formal training, who's gonna pay for that?
DDA would pay for their training.
So we're beginning to chip away right away, along with
They
the
need,
snowplow.
they should attend
removal.
the training anyways.
Okay.
I would like to have the planning board and the ZBA also implement a 6-hour mandatory formal training.
Well, let's do
Because-
that. Let's do all three together.
How about we split them up, but we can do it at this meeting if you would like.
Well, I think that takes a little planning and what kind of training and how many hours to decide in 2 minutes tonight, but.
Oh, I
mean,
thought
the
that's what you were recommending, that we do
No, I
that
said,
tonight.
no, I said, before we do this,
Because I'd be glad to have put them on the agenda for the next meeting.
so,
But an educated board is a well-functioning board. And it's very important, especially in regards to the law, as was commented on before. In the first 4 years of my first term, the biggest issue that I found in township governance, the Oscoda Township governance, was a lack of knowledge of the law. Not from everybody on the board, but it was a significant amount. And I think it's extremely important for people to understand that, to understand planning and zoning. Because if you understand those things, then you can understand how to create economic development in our community, how to make things progress, how to maintain our infrastructure. Those are all very critical. And you mentioned before about them being volunteers, but as a volunteer, you volunteer to put the work into it for the community. You swear an oath of office. So if it's just a matter of, if maybe I'm misinterpreting what you're saying here, if it's a matter of people just coming onto a board, showing up once a month, saying a few things and then going home, I don't think that's effective. If you're going to be a community leader, you need to be deeply involved with it. You need to put in the work and the effort into it. I've sat on other boards as volunteers, and I put everything into it to make sure that job was accomplished well.
well, I don't know, I constantly see the DDA as being a punching bag, and I'm sorry and saddened by the majority of this board, in my estimation, really has a problem with the DDA. And I've said this before, I'm the great repeater, but we've had as many as 4 people from this board and our administration sit on DDA boards, and nobody has had a problem. At least they were willing to voice, there have been 4 people, Ann Richards, Bob Stalker, myself, and Mr. Gajewski. And so we've had 4 sets of eyes to look at what was going on. And if you it's easy to focus on this year and the expenditures. This has been the biggest expenditure year that the DDA has had, with buying the property, renovating the building. The so-called lighthouse or navigation light cost money, and then it had to be repaired. It's going to have to be moved there. We've never had a year like 2018. This is not a typical year as far as expenditures, and things will even out. But I think, again, just one guy, I think this all is overkill. Going down to where we've had in the past, I don't know if we're still there, but the DDA has got to tell us projects that they want to do for the next quarter of a century. That was in print in one of our packets a few meetings ago. Overkill. I don't think we need this. But anyway.
Well, I would just like to say that in relation to this resolution, the 9 items that are listed in here, from my experience attending the DDA meetings, most of the DDA board have, well, number one, they've approved, number 3, the 2 mil increase. They approved to change the name already. That was agreed to them. So most of the items on this list, in the discussions that I heard at prior DDA meetings, they're in favor. There's a question by some of the members in terms of the Articles of Incorporation. But other than that, one item, and Mr. Gajewski and Mr. Weedle, correct me if I'm wrong, from the DDA board members, most were pretty much on board with everything else involved in this resolution. And I think that's why there's some change from the last iteration of this document that we saw at the last board meeting, because there was some question about some of the items that were on this list, and so it was revised to make it a little more palatable to the DDA itself.
That's right.
And they have, from what I...
But Bill, you're citing the easy stuff, changing the name of the DDA and things like that.
Well, that's what's listed in this list that we're voting on in the resolution.
Well, there's other things, but,
Well, virtually everything in here, they have agreed to. It was discussed, I mean, this has been discussed with the DDA. This isn't anything we're springing on them as a surprise.
they know they're gonna have to have 6 hours of formal training.
That's not listed in here.
Okay. But that's
As I said before, that was my recommendation to have added to their bylaws. It's up to them to approve whether that's to occur or not. I think it actually should be mandated of this board that there's at least 6 hours of formal training.
Thank you.
I think that over the years, that would have been a significant help.
Well, my loser motion is made and seconded that we postpone this until we have a full board, not just till John gets back here.
Are you calling to question?
I guess so.
All right, we have a motion to postpone by Mr. Byer and support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call?
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
No.
Mr. Palmer?
No.
Mr. Gajewski?
No.
Ms. McGuire?
No.
Mr. Weed?
No, motion's failed. Any other comments regarding the resolution? Or is there a motion?
On page 1 of 3, that last whereas, about where Tim said there's a question, is that actually true that they would still be answerable to the township board? Wouldn't our only function then be approving their budget and appointing their people if they have articles of incorporation? Why would they be answerable to us?
They would be answerable to us according to the sections of our Public Act 57 that requires certain areas that we must oversee. Other than that, they won't be.
On the one item that talks about they must physically have their own, whatever physically means, physically have their own treasurer and their own secretary. That means if Jamie continues to handle their finances, and I'm assuming you're doing that now,
I am.
that,
I write their checks
okay,
when they get
and they would have to pay Jamie for that?
Their treasurer needs to do the DDA treasurer work. The secretary needs to do their secretary work.
Okay. So just continuing with the secretarial work and the financial work that they are doing now with the same people, a member of the boards, that's not possible.
I don't understand your question.
Well, right now, somebody's taking care of the secretarial work, minutes and so forth.
Tammy.
Tammy comes over and takes that, and Jamie handles some significant portion of their financial matters. That would not be possible anymore. No Tammy coming over taking notes, no Jamie writing their checks.
Correct. If they were to negotiate something with the township to do that work for them, then yes, there would need to be compensation for that. Because as I mentioned in the packet before, the difference between direct and indirect taxpayer benefit. And if you have the general taxpayer paying for the services of the DDA, then that's an indirect benefit, and they're not supposed to be paying that. It's the people within the district, they're getting the direct benefit, they're to pay into that for those services.
And at the last meeting, the secretary was agreeable to take the minutes, of the meeting. The DDA secretary. She said she would be able to do that.
It's Rhonda Cope?
Rhonda Cope, yes.
Okay.
One of the big pluses at the last meeting when we first started talking about the Articles of Incorporation is two of the board members talked about their own personal experience with being incorporated and how it protects you. But at the work session, and John's not here to speak to it, but he mentioned that even though you have Articles of Incorporation, that is not a guarantee, 100% guarantee. Does it help? Yes, it does help, but it's not a 100% guarantee that you can't be drug into some type of a lawsuit or whatever. My question is, and it probably goes back to something that Aaron was saying with the chambers, like the chamber have Articles of Incorporation, or the Lions Club or any other they do. So the, okay, that was what I wanted to know. My other question is, I know that our attorney has said that he would pro bono write the Articles of Incorporation for the DDA, but isn't that some type of a conflict for him because he represents us and he's doing this for them?
Not for writing the articles. But if he were to represent on a court case with it, then yes, that would be a conflict.
How could he not, I guess, if he's the one writing them?
How could he
He wouldn't
not?
defend his own writing?
Well,
Or
if you
why
have a
would they
court-
want him to write it if he wasn't going to defend it?
Well, if you have a court case, it wouldn't be over the bylaws or the Articles of Incorporation. It'd be about something that happened with another party, right? So I don't think that's an example of
Okay.
where that would come up. But I see your point. I see what you're looking at. I think he's just trying to be a good guy to help us along because he doesn't want to, I mean, I'm just throwing words in the mouth here because I haven't spoken to Edward
Then I
about
guess
this
my
at all.
next question is, why didn't he do this a long time ago?
He was willing to. He's brought it up many times about the DDA and its separation, its Articles of Incorporation for many years. I hadn't known about it until 2 years ago.
And yet his emails, though, from over the last 2 years have swayed from one side to the other.
How so?
Meaning that it's fine the way it's operating to they need to have Articles of Incorporation.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know.
Well, it's all letters that we all received.
Not since
Since-
I've been on the board.
Yes, that it has. You
Well,
need to
there
go
was.
back and read your emails.
There was some confusion along the way about this whole Articles of Incorporation thing, where it needed the Articles of Incorporation, and then when there were discussions in some other areas, it came down to, well, they don't have to have the Articles of Incorporation, but they should have them, and he's had further discussions and done more research, meaning discussions, meaning like panels of attorneys, and they've all agreed that there should be Articles of Incorporation.
And there's one other item that I was reminded of this weekend that has to do with insurance. Township carries insurance on all of our vehicles, all of our buildings. We also carry something that's called malfeasance insurance, which is an insurance policy such that if the township gets into a lawsuit, that we will be covered with our insurance for that lawsuit so that we wouldn't conceivably bankrupt the township. What I discovered this weekend is that one of the pretenses of malfeasance insurance through the insurance company is that you operate under the recommendation of your township attorney. If you vary from, in other words, if the township attorney gives you advice on a particular matter to take a particular action, and you choose to take the opposite of what your attorney has recommended, you could lose your malfeasance insurance if a case were to come up. I I was just reminded that this weekend. I renewed my own insurance, and I was reading through some of the fine print that was in there that I hadn't done in a lot of years, and I conferred with somebody about some of the things, and it was pointed out to me that that would be one of the considerations of our malfeasance insurance as it relates to this Articles of Incorporation. Our attorney has recommended that the DDA have Articles of Incorporation. That's why he feels so strongly about it, that it's important for the township, and he's willing to do it for free. If we were to not do that, it's conceivable that if a lawsuit were to come up, we would not have insurance to cover that. Just a possibility, but it
Bill,
is-
you mentioned that some of the other items on the list were discussed at the last DDA meeting, and I wasn't there to give other people a chance to be able to go if they wanted to. Did they discuss the Articles of Incorporation at all?
Yes.
Anybody? And how was that? What was the discussion like for that?
That was mixed reviews.
Mixed reviews.
I'm surprised nobody's here tonight, actually. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, most of the things on this list are there's a good board on the DDA. You've got some smart people, and they're a very capable board. In my opinion, they're able to run their own ship and do what they need to do on their own. I don't think they need guidance from the township board. With the 2 mil increase that they approved and we just approved, they'll have some additional funds to be able to make that board work even better, I believe, so.
Once the resolution is approved, when does it take effect?
Immediate.
Is that
So they
stated in
will-
here?
But, the resolution takes effect immediately, but the DDA will go through the process on there. So we can set a deadline as to when they are to accomplish all of that.
Well, do
Of
we
course,
need-
they can't accomplish that immediately,
Right.
but I think that's a good idea. You touched on something there that should be addressed.
I would hope that these items could be completed by the end of the year.
I was gonna say, I don't wanna go, oh, okay, we're just, here you go, good luck. You know, I don't want that to happen.
Oh, I wouldn't either. I agree.
I mean, I'd be very disappointed in this board if something like that were to happen.
I think that comment was made Friday. Yeah, we didn't want to throw it all at him at one time and stick it with him, let him work into it.
But I think with the new legislation going into effect January 1st, it would be to the benefit of everybody to have these things at least put in place by the end of December. So at the first of the year, we're operating according to the new law.
I'm just gonna say this, it's not gonna, I was at a conference today in Bay City, for the Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association, it was the first day. And every opportunity I had a chance to sit at a different table and talk to people all day long, I was asking everybody about their DDA. And, I can tell you this right now, not very many people have Articles of Incorporation, so just so you know, that's out there for a lot of people. It's not just for Oscoda Township. Some people looked at me like, what was I even talking about? So, I mean, there's a good percentage of people that didn't even know if their DDA had Articles of Incorporation. Some said they knew they had bylaws, but they didn't have Articles of Incorporation, kind of same way that we were. And so, this isn't something that is just specific to Oscoda Township, that's for sure, after speaking to a bunch of people, so.
That-
And I'm gonna talk to the rest of them the next 2 days, so.
Good.
Well, ask them if they're aware of Public Act 57.
We discussed it today in our legislative update, as a matter of fact, so.
My experience has been our township attorney has been in favor of, this is why I talked about neutrality or lack thereof 2 weeks ago. On the part of the attorney, he has been in favor of this way before Public Act 57. So, for what it's worth, people think that his offer to write the Articles of Incorporation is generous and charitable, and he deserves lots of attaboys. I think it's leading the witness to use legal lawyer parlance. He wants us to have articles of incorporation, so to get us to do that, I will do this for free if you will do what I want.
I think you're trying to say something here and not saying it.
I think I said it. I just doubt that it's a charitable, boy, is he ever a nice man deal.
Really?
Yeah.
Because all I've heard for 5 years prior to this was what a wonderful lawyer he was from you.
Yes,
How wonderful.
oh,
He's
hey.
done such a great job on things. You've seen him in action and how wonderful he was, but your tone in the last few months has really changed on that.
No, I've never said he's not a good lawyer. In fact, I got him a job over in Ogama County recently. A friend of mine called from Ogama and said, "Do you know a good lawyer?" And I recommended the gentleman we're talking about for that. So he's going to make some money on my recommendation, because they did contact him, they did visit him. I'm instrumental in probably keeping him as the township attorney here a few years back. But no, I have never said he's not a good lawyer. I just, you're putting words in my mouth, so.
I didn't put words in your mouth. I said exactly what you did say.
I said he's a good lawyer, and I say that tonight. Or otherwise, I wouldn't have recommended him a month ago to the people in
So if he's a
Ogama.
good attorney, then why would this advice be bad?
I just said, Aaron, that the offer to do all of this for free is not, I don't look on it as a generous charitable thing. He wants us to be incorporated. That's one way, the road that he wants us to go down. So to lead you to do that, this offer is out there.
Because it makes no difference to me whether he does it for free or not.
Mhm.
That doesn't influence my decision.
You're one of 7.
Well, to me, it indicates that he feels strongly that we need to have this. And he said that to me, because I asked him that specifically. If the reason he's willing to do this for free is because he feels strongly that it's needed. So if your attorney recommends that something be in place, I would strongly recommend that we follow that recommendation.
I don't have an opinion one way or the other whether the DDA takes up or up on his free offer. It's irrelevant. I just think we need to move forward here.
Any other comments or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2018-23.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call?
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
I'm going to vote yes, because I want the DDA to be able to control and do the things that they want to be able to do.
Mr. Byer?
I'm afraid that we're gonna load them up with a bunch of financial disabilities. That's gonna make that 28,000 for the 2 mills meaningless. So I am voting no.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes, motion is passed. I make a motion that we remove the requirement that the DDA brings their monthly bills to us for pre-approval.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Weed, support by Ms. McGuire. Any questions, comments?
When will that be effective?
Immediately.
How will this approval, we would give this every 2 weeks at our meeting, or you would do this, or?
I'm removing that they,
Have to have it on
we
our list.
require them to bring their bills to us every month for approval, and I am now removing that.
To us.
To us,
Correct.
yeah.
Any other comments? Roll call?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
I'm sorry, I have a question. I need a clarification. You're saying that this would be effective immediately?
Correct.
Okay. I have to vote no because they haven't incorporated yet. There's no separation. It has to happen after they've incorporated, so I would say no.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes, motion is passed. All right, last resolution, delinquent property taxes.
Oh, good. I missed that part. If you guys got the chance, they had it for me. I sent you guys this stuff. Sorry it was late for the packet. I was waiting for the final resolution from the attorney. I worked with Mr. Eppert on delinquent personal property taxes in the past. And it's not mandatory that we bring it to the board with a resolution or approval, but it was his suggestion that we do so that's why I'm bringing it to you, as in the past. If you've read the memo, the discussion is according to Public Act 206, the Property Tax Act, Section 211.56A, delinquent personal property taxes may be written off after being delinquent for 5 years. And like I said, in mentioning, working with Mr. Eppert, a resolution was prepared for the township to grant permission for writing off delinquent amounts. Once the township board approves that, then the attorney and I will take that petition the district court to write off the taxes, and they will be stricken from the roll. What that amounts to is a loss for the township overall over the 5 years of $2,174.07. As noted in my sustainability criteria, it's not significantly impacting their environmental quality, social equity, or economic strength of the township. Any questions?
Jamie, it said something in there about doing your due diligence to collect.
Yep, like,
These monies?
I attached the Property Tax Act. It requires that you do that. I send out 3 notices. I also go pay visits to people to try to collect it. If there's stuff that can be seized and sold, depending on the amount, that type of thing. Mark David and I have gone out and visited a few people, and it's funny when I show up with the police, some people like to pay then. So I've had that response before in the past. Due diligence, so it's sending out the notices, making every effort possible to try to collect the taxes. Some of the ones that are on there that are bigger amounts are people that have like left town, taken the property with them, relocated out of the state. I've tried to work with Mark David through LexisNexis that we pay for to locate people or some of the property, and sometimes you just can't do it. They're just gone. So some people, there's deceased and bankruptcies and things like that you can't touch the personal property either. So a lot of those things meet those type of criteria as well. Some of them, there's little amounts that were just not really worth trying to go after the amounts too. So by the time you, everybody's time
And so
and effort.
once you exhaust all those opportunities, then you just figure there's no point in keeping that on the books.
Right.
And-
Even with Mr. Eppert, through this petition process, they'll be tried to contacted one last time to get them to pay. If the stuff even gets to them, I have a stack of mail like this big that keeps coming back from not being able to track them down. But we try to send out to the last known addresses through LexisNexis to try to make those collections as well. So, and if they do not respond, then they will be written off for the last ditch
Most of this
effort.
people that have left or sold their equipment and there's no trace of it.
Yeah, and then some of it, they sold the equipment off, and yeah, there's like, can't track it down, that type of thing, and yeah. So I need the board's approval
Yep.
through the resolution, if there's no further discussion.
Are there any comments or a motion?
So you would do this every 5 years? So this,
I can do it actually every year, but I'm playing catch-up, basically.
okay, so this resolution then would put in place that every 5 years? So we wouldn't need to have another resolution in 5 years, or we would?
Nope, what this resolution is doing is writing off the taxes, the personal property taxes from 2007 to 2011.
Okay,
So, yeah, just for that 5-year time period.
just that 5 years.
Yeah, mhm.
So in 5 years, made to do another resolution?
Actually, I might come back next year and do another
Okay,
resolution.
okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Isn't the typical is 5 years when these happen from,
You
with,
can- you
with
can-
other municipalities?
Right, and you can actually go together with municipalities if you took a look at the Public Act and do them together. Actually, a lot of the times the county deals with the personal property taxes. Unfortunately, our county won't do it, so it gets stuck to the local treasurers. I know you're all shocked by that, so, yes. So
No,
it's
not
left to the
really.
responsibility of the local treasurers to do.
Jeez,
Crazy.
Amazing.
All right, is there a motion?
also so moved that we go ahead with this resolution.
I'll support. Motion by Mr. Byer, support by Mr. Weed. Roll call?
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Byer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Gieske?
Yes.
Mr. Weed?
Yes, motion is passed. We're now into our second public comment period. For this one, there is no need to fill out a comment card. There's still a 4-minute time limit, and please introduce yourself if you come up and speak. Does anybody wish to speak?
Robert Tadger, Hillcrest Drive. I might as well start right in right away. And a lot was being said tonight, and a lot's been said over the last several months of board meetings. I want to bring up a couple of things. I'm going to do this quickly. Planning Commission members so far this year has attended more than 6 hours of sessions brought here. So that would kind of fulfill that whole thing, and the ZBA also attended those sessions. Less than 1 year ago, I stood on this very podium and I asked us to become members for your approval to join Michigan Association of Planners. And you approved that, and since that time, we've come back to you and asked you for more membership, and you approved that. And since then, we have 2 sessions that have been brought here, and 1 session actually was at no cost to us because of other participating members from other surrounding communities. So that is a great benefit for training, and I really appreciate that, and I think it's moving forward in those training efforts, and it wouldn't bother me one bit if you gave us an assignment for 10 hours of training. I volunteered for the position that I hold, and I've learned so much in the last 4 years or so that I've been a member of the Planning Commission that it's well worth it, and I would go to any training that you would recommend that I go to. And I would hope that other board members that volunteer for the positions and take the oaths would do the same thing. Otherwise, please don't volunteer and take the oath. That's what we say. We go into John's office and he gives us an oath. So that's what it's about. And I've got a lot of other things to say too. Well, one thing is, Jamie, you asked about the DDA opinion about incorporating. And I used my 4 minutes at one of those meetings and I asked them individually. And of the ones that were in attendance, not all, some left early, but one was a definite no, and the other ones were all, I could go that way, I could go the other way too. So there was only one solid no.
I was at that meeting. I wasn't at the last one, so I didn't know
Right.
if any of the opinions had changed or that
So
type
it
of
has been
thing.
talked about for quite some time there. And the last thing, I'm gonna direct this directly at you, Mr. Byer.
Sure. Fire away.
I do not, Mr. Byer, I hear resentment in your remarks towards Mr. Weed because, is it because he's a president supervisor, a position that you held for a number of years? I'm asking this because every remark he seems to make, you challenge his opinion. I mean, that is your right to do that. I understand that. But I'm beginning to question your motives for that.
I did not run for supervisor. You know that.
I absolutely know that.
Yeah.
But I don't understand when it comes to these topics about the DDA and things, the only one that was bringing solutions to that problem, and I've been going to all of those meetings, is Mr. Weed brought in solutions and asked them to do the same thing. And not one of them did that. And then you're questioning his motives. I don't think that's right. I think you should question everybody's motives for not bringing solutions to the table. There was a problem there. They all knew there was a problem, and yet nobody was bringing solutions. They just wanted to criticize his solutions. And I don't think that's being fair.
Well, I don't know what they did or didn't do because, as you may have observed, very often I try to attend DDA meetings and I get kicked out because there's too many people. So I guess what you're saying about them not coming up with suggestions is right, but I wouldn't know. Because I tried to
But
go to
those
the meeting.
sessions were brought up during work sessions that were joint between this board and their board. That's when that was brought up. That's when that became a topic of conversation.
I've tried to attend as many of those boards as I can. I don't want to go into any detail about why it's difficult for me to go to every meeting. You would be surprised how difficult it is for me to be sitting here right now tonight. So that's all I can say to you is that I try to go to those meetings. I've had to leave early, a number of them. It's a personal deal, and I thought you understood that, so.
I do understand that, but for the questionings that keep coming up over and over and over that have been discussed, I don't understand your motives for that. The DDA was fully aware of all these things that's been under discussion. And my time's up.
Yes.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? All right, then we're on to board comments. Does anybody have anything?
I just have a question. How are we doing on the TV deal? Are we on channel whatever, or?
Are we on it with no problems?
Are we paying for televised?
We're kind of on, but not on.
We're gonna get a rebate for that?
Yeah.
That was a question I wanted to bring as well, because Ms. McGuire had mentioned 2 weeks ago on Tuesday after our last meeting, the poor sound quality, and she had several people complain, and I had several people complain about the sound quality last week. So I'm just wondering if that's being addressed.
It has been addressed already. It was a case of one person didn't know that the other person had forgot to set our mixer board properly. And both myself and Eric had been called away from town. And we both were on the phone with one of the operators trying to solve the problem the whole meeting. I have since gone back and edited the meeting already, fixed the audio problem, and re-uploaded it. We still have a few issues with Charter, trying to connect with them to get everything back on the air. We've been on the air as much as possible. Our computer went down the other day. It finally came back up, but now it's not. It's refusing to play the program. Our other channel, number 188, is still, for some reason, they can't see the video on it. So I am working on that as quickly as possible to get that remedied as well. But when we heard about the audio problems, both Eric and I said, well, and Eric is still gone again this week again. I said, I will get that right away. And I went in and edited the video so it was viewable. So everything that's coming up, we're just addressing it as fast as we can.
Okay.
And trying to keep things rolling.
Is Charter a stop in some way or another?
No, they're helping us the best they can. They're trying to get. We've had issues with the internet service, which they figured out finally was their wire. We've had issues with trying to get the proper levels, and it's just when the equipment got moved from where it was to where it is now, it just has to be dialed back in again, and that's been our problem.
Did I understand you earlier to say that there was a problem that Charter is still trying to resolve, but they haven't been able to find a solution?
No. There's the one thing we're trying to figure out is how to get the one signal level from the other channel up to proper status, but that's just something we're working on together to figure out if it's their piece of equipment that's in the bottom of the rack or if it's our piece of equipment that needs to be tweaked. I'm working with Bob, our charter engineer.
For the record, are they being responsive enough?
Yep.
Okay, well then is it reasonable to say that we could have this resolved within the next 2 weeks for the next meeting?
That is my goal.
Okay. All right.
Well, there's been issues ever since we started re-airing. It wasn't just the last meeting.
With being on TV, correct?
Correct.
Right, with being on TV,
So
we've
we're
still been
talking a
working
couple
out all
months.
of that, trouble with, when the internet first was dropped in, every 15 minutes it would kick us off when we were logging into our servers. They came out, replaced the modem, and it still didn't work. They came out, replaced the entire line, finally that worked. And then we got the 190 on the air, ran the meetings, and that went off the air. Then our computer last week went off the air, and I've been working trying to get it, fixed and everything else. Another issue I'm having, and I certainly don't want to throw him under the bus since he's not here, is Mr. Nordin's trying to get me a key so we can go in after hours and sit and work on it. Because most of the time that I have right now is after township business hours. And for 3 to 4 possible meetings I've asked him, and he said, oh yes, I'll check on that. And again, I don't want to throw him under the bus because he's not here. Please forgive me for that.
That's okay.
I just did.
Right, you
but
just did.
I don't need to. I will try to drive the bus around him if I can.
Wasn't that one of the terms of the contract, that you had access to the equipment?
Yes.
Okay.
But being it's locked up after 5 o'clock, we don't have that at this point. So we're trying
Did
to.
you have a key before?
Not to the township hall, no. We had keys to the State Street building because I would go there at 3 in the morning and then the police would stop by and they'd wonder what's going on. I said, well, I was up doing a potty run and checked the station and it wasn't on, so I threw my pajamas back on and went on down there and fixed it. And that's kind of what, we're responsible for. We're looking into ways to have the system actually contact us if it experiences a problem. But even if it contacted us now, we couldn't fix it because our first step was to pick up a server that we could log into. And we've got that finally. And then, what's today? Today is Monday. It would have been Friday. I went to log into it at about 7 o'clock and it said, no, I'm not here. You are there. I know you're there. And I kept trying. I called Eric. I said, Eric, you try it. He said, I can't get in either. Well, I had to wait over the weekend to get in there. And I went in real quick, turned it back on, shut it down, and it came back. Now, like I said, it's refusing to display a picture. So I have to go back in there again tomorrow and try to make it show a picture. So it is absolutely just a horrible sequence of errors that are piling up on us. But the audio from last week, we did figure out what the problem was, and truly it was you set the board for this option and didn't set it back and forgot to tell somebody. And that has been addressed already.
So when somebody here on the board indicated the sound wasn't very good recently,
Yes.
was that on YouTube or was that on?
It was live.
Live.
Right, it was on YouTube, and I was notified of it the day after the meeting, and I was out of town for about 2 or 3 days after that. As soon as I got home, that was the first thing I did was pulled that meeting down, edited it, and got it back up there. And it even says Oscoda Township Board Meeting 2018-09-10 V2. So people who looked at it went, what's that mean?
And the payment schedule that you are getting from the township is normal right now? If everything was perfect and we were getting great programming, the amount that you're getting from us or you're not getting from us, so you are getting regular payments?
We are, yes.
All right.
And we are attempting to fulfill all of our obligations with some stumbling blocks. Not perfect. Guaranteed, I'll be the first one to admit that.
Right? I guess at what point do you not pay for a service if you're not getting it, though? Or make some type of adjustments? Would be my question.
I would say, JD, that there were a number of people who complained. A couple people on the board had mentioned that they had received complaints from people who mentioned it to them. So I think it's fair to say that it was noticed by enough people that that, and I think given the tone of what you're hearing from the board now, I think we're on, in a situation where it needs to be addressed expediently. And there can't be any more situations where people are out of town. I think you're being paid to manage your personnel and manage to make sure that the right personnel are actually working the show, the
Right.
meeting here.
That's
And-
that's one of the other things we've instituted is we are going to implement a very, very stringent training policy, since you guys have been talking about training.
Yep.
We have several people who are interested in learning more about what they do.
Okay.
And we thought they were trained enough to do what they had to do, but when the problem arose, they froze.
I understand.
And so that's why we were on the phone, both of us, trying to solve the problem. Because if we aren't here, I do want to assure you, we don't just not watch. We monitor it as closely as we can.
But here's the thing, now that you've said that, I want to specifically call out my recollection of the contract, which I don't have in front of me. But that fee includes certain personnel to be here. It includes a director, a producer, a board operator, a mixer, cameraman.
Right, we had all those
people-
personnel in place.
Okay, but if they're not trained, then they're not that person. We're talking roles, not names.
Right, right.
So I wanna
And our director is trained.
I think for this discussion here, we're getting into something that probably a few people need to get together at the Township Hall and discuss the contract and services, and I don't really want to turn this meeting into a work session for that. I think we can handle this in the Township Hall. I think the point's been made, and we can start working on some solutions. And then provide information at the next board meeting. Does that sound good?
Sounds fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jay.
Are there any other board comments?
Yeah, I'd like to apologize to the board and you, Aaron, if I come across as an old curmudgeon instead of a guy that has sincere concerns. I don't talk just for the sake of talking. I'm believing what I'm saying or what I'm asking, but if it comes across otherwise, as apparently does, my apologies.
Thank you. Any other board comments? I would like to address a couple of things that were talked about during this meeting, first of which is grants. I mentioned about writing grants. One of the first training sessions that I attended, within a month after becoming first elected, it was conveyed that elected officials need to prove their worth monetarily, and they can do that through the means of grants. And I think that was a very valid statement, that I think that we should not be leaving grants entirely up to the staff. I think board members should be looking into grants and writing grants. I've written 3 grants. I've been involved with 4 grants and gotten 3 of the 4 grants total, amounting to $370,000. Mark David's written a whole lot of grants and received pretty much no recognition for that, and that amounted to about $150,000 in grants. So I would like to see a lot more activity, because we can't rely on 1 or 2 people to sit there and research and do everything with grants. When we have a board of 7 people, that can accomplish quite a lot amongst the thousands of grants that are available. As far as the laws, we are obligated to the law. We sworn to the law. The state created townships, and therefore we are obligated to do what the state says that we are allowed to do. And these laws are immense. They're everywhere. It's a constant learning battle, because none of us have law degrees or taken a bar test or been through all that training. But we have to abide by them. And for us, we cannot be soft with the laws. We can't just kind of play around with it and say, well, I'm going to ignore this, or I'm going to go ahead and kind of maybe move the meaning over into a different ways to allow us to do something that maybe we shouldn't do. It's imperative we follow those. Because just like Mr. Palmer spoke about with malfeasance, if it's found that gross negligence from a board member on something, we lose our protection. So it's very important that we are aware of the laws, that we know them, that we research them. Most of the laws I've learned, just Google it, they all pop up. Now, I don't get case law, that's where I rely on our attorney. When our attorney comes forward and says, well, you know, there's this here, and I say, I want to see documentation on it. And most of the time, I get documentation on it. Sometimes it's direct printout from Westlaw or LexisNexis. For the first, well, I guess I still do it, but I adamantly fact-check our attorney from the very beginning. Because I didn't know him in the beginning, and I had concerns. And every time I fact-check him, he's come back spot on. So I have faith in what he's providing to us. And there are times that I'm like, well, you know, Mr. Eppert, I'm not so sure about this. Can you go ahead and re-look at it again, see what more you can find? And he does it. The next is about solutions. I think it was very profound what you said at one of our work sessions, where we as board members are not here to bring forward a whole bunch more problems. We're here to bring forward solutions. The more problems we bring up with solutions, the more we don't accomplish.
Right.
So when I bring forward a solution, it's because nobody's brought me any other solutions. And then when I ask, if you don't like my solutions, please come up with your own. I'm fine with tossing mine out if somebody comes up with something better. As far as the DDA goes, I've not had any other solutions come forward.
Thanks for the acknowledgement.
Does anybody have anything else? All right, then I need a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned. Thanks for coming out.
Big meetings tomorrow.